Good morning. This is Dylan Jovine with Behind the Markets. Happy Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, May 13th. What an interesting time it is to be alive. This week, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Trump is flying to China for the summit. And everybody's talking about the headline issues they're going to talk about. Semiconductors, soybeans, chips, rare earths, all those things. But there's this whole great game going on behind the scenes. And, really, I follow the Treasury Department here a lot in the Federal Reserve. And it's really an interesting little story here that we've been extending currency swaps with these countries. We've been offering currency swaps to countries in the Middle East. And a currency swap is when the U.S. buys another country's currency, giving that country more U.S. dollars. And the reason the Middle East is so important is because it's a small little playground, but they sell oil and everybody touches oil. They have a global footprint. You have 10 countries basically that can determine what currency becomes dominant, the US or China. Now, of course, China has been trying to woo these countries. Famously, Saudi Arabia dropped the petrodollar agreement a couple of years ago, 2023, which basically allowed them to start pricing their oil sales in China's currency, right? So right now, China and America are both vying to keep their currency dominant. Well, China is trying to attack us to take our position as a dominant world currency, and we're trying to defend. So one of the things Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's been doing is doing these currency swaps with countries like the UAE. So not only do they need help dealing with U.S. asset sales, they need these currencies to prop up their country while this war goes on. So we're using their stress to really push them into our arms so they start using our currency even more, further cementing the U.S. dollar's hold on the very, very important oil countries, oil producing and selling countries in the Middle East. So that's one big topic that is happening in this summit. And they're not going to talk about this because you guys are already falling asleep just having to listen to this much. It's not a fancy headline, but this is this financial geopolitical competition going on behind the scenes that most people aren't even aware of. And this is another reason that China's central bank bought 8 tons of gold in April, which is the most since December 2024. So you're starting to see China, really these rumors of China pushing out maybe an offshore currency that is backed by gold. Those rumors take more credibility or credence when you see China really ramping up its gold purchases, especially as it relates to this Iran war. And of course, as it relates to the Iran war, Iran rejected basically any peace proposal and said, we're not even talking about nuclear weapons. And Trump was very careful in his response. He said that it's basically on life support. I don't see anything happening until he goes to China. My suspicion is that China is really pulling a lot of strings with Iran and is basically saying to Iran, don't agree to anything. We got your back. And Xi Jinping will bring that up as a negotiating leverage point in his talks with Trump, that China plays this pivotal role. So, if you see us, and I know a lot of my friends who are diehard America First isolationists, they don't understand why we would do any of these things. Let me remind you that without the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, it would be worse than losing any war. Your net worth would go down by 30%. Your retirement accounts would be down by 30%. Your interest rates would be up 40%. Your life would be so much worse if the US dollar was not the world's reserve currency. So doing these things that are not foreign military interventions, but they're certainly foreign financial interventions, whether it is Argentina or the UAE or any other Middle Eastern country currently affected by this, doing these currency swaps with them extends the dominance of the US dollar. And in my view, is a fairly creative way to keep us in the number one position. But you get the sense that everywhere around the globe, whether it's in currencies, rare earths, semiconductors. There's this crazy chess match between the United States and China, which is the great game, as Winston Churchill used to call it. It's the competition. It's the game behind the game that most people aren't even aware of. But this is a very important meeting, and what we could hope for is that a lot of people are a little concerned that Trump, being such a mercantilist kind of negotiator, trades something that is more long-term important for some short-term propaganda win, especially something he could bring home as a win to his constituents who are not happy with the war against Iran. So let's hope that he's not feeling that kind of political pressure. One of the great things about having somebody who can never run for president again is that, and somebody who was shot at, multiple assassination attempts, is that you say to yourself, I imagine, you know what, I get one shot to do this. I am actually going to do the things that I believe are right for our country, for my kids, for my grandkids, regardless of the political cost. I think taking nuclear weapons away from Iran so that we don't have to worry about them passing nuclear weapons to a Sinaloa drug cartel, smuggling an Iranian up and blowing them on the Capitol during a State of the Union address, I think that happens to be a good thing. Let's hope that he can keep all these things up. A very, very eventful week. We will see you tomorrow.